Okay, imagine a room in your house. Maybe it's the attic or a storage closet that you haven't really cleaned or organized in, I don't know, 70 years.
Oh, that's a terrifying image.
Right. You just kept shoving papers in drawers, stacking boxes, using duct tape on the windows, and just hoping it doesn't all collapse.
I mean, technically it works. You can store stuff, but it's an absolute mess to navigate.
Exactly. And that room, that's basically India's labor law framework up until very, very recently. We're talking about a system built on 29 different, confusing, overlapping, sometimes ancient laws.
Some from the British Raj, literally.
But now, that room has been completely gutted, painted, and reorganized.
It really has. We're looking at a historic modernization. On November 21st, 2025, India took those 29 laws and consolidated them into just 4 streamlined codes.
It's arguably the biggest structural shift in how work happens in India since independence.
Mac.
And that's exactly what we're digging into today. We're doing a deep dive into India's unified labor codes. We've got the official gazettes, legal analyses, the implementation guides.
And our mission here is to figure out what this actually means for you.
Right.
Whether you're an employee looking at a confusing pay slip, a business owner trying to stay compliant, or, a freelancer in the gig economy.
The rules of the game have changed.
Fundamentally, we need to unpack the 4 codes: wages, Social Security, industrial relations, and occupational safety.
So where do we even begin with something this big?
You always follow the money. Let's start with the Code on Wages, 2019. This one, well, it impacts you listening right now the most directly.
Because it changes the math of your salary.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The headline here, and the thing that really jumped out at me, is something called the 50% rule.
Yes.
It sounds simple, but the implications for take-home pay seem huge. What is it?
It's a structural requirement for payroll that it disrupts a decades-old corporate habit. Under this new code, your basic pay has to be at least 50% of your total compensation.
Right. And just to be clear, historically, that hasn't been the case, has it?
No, not at all.
Usually the basic is kept really low, like maybe 30% or 40%, and the rest is padded out with all sorts of allowances.
House rent allowance, special allowance, conveyance, you name it, it's been in there.
And that was done for a reason.
Oh, absolutely. Employers kept the basic pay low to reduce their liability for things like the Provident Fund, the PF, and gratuity.
Because those are calculated based on the basic.
Precisely. Lower basic meant lower costs for the company. It was a loophole.
So by forcing the basic up to 50%, the government is essentially forcing a recalculation of all those benefits.
Correct. The code says that all those other allowances, the exclusions, are capped at 50% of your total pay. If they go over that, the extra amount gets treated as part of your wages anyway.
Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting and maybe a little painful for the listener.
Mm-hmm.
If my basic pay goes up to meet this rule, my mandatory PF contribution also goes up, right?
Right.
Because that's 12% of the basic.
That's the math.
So that's great for my retirement. But does that mean my monthly take-home cash might actually go down?
That is the aha moment.
Yeah.
Yes. For a lot of people, especially in the mid to high income brackets, your in-hand salary is likely decreasing right now.
Wow.
A larger chunk is being diverted into Social Security, like PF. It's essentially a forced savings plan.
So you get the email, congratulations, your base pay is higher, but then you look at your bank account and there's less cash.
It's a difficult sell.
Yeah.
And for employers, it's a tension point. Either they increase the overall package to keep your take-home the same, which costs them more, or they keep the cost to company the same, and you take home less.
It's a big adjustment. But the code isn't just about structure. It also changes the floor, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about a universal minimum wage.
This is a huge shift, especially for the unorganized sector. Previously, minimum wage laws were patchy. They only applied to certain scheduled jobs.
So if your job wasn't on the list, you had no protection.
None. Now, that concept of scheduled employment is gone. It applies to everyone.
Everyone. So
Yeah.
even if I hire someone for a job that didn't exist 5 years ago,
Everyone. The central government sets a national floor wage.
a baseline.
Exactly. And the states can set their own minimum wages, but, and this is key, they cannot go below that national floor. It's a safety net for the entire country.
And I saw there was a specific call out for gender equality in there too.
Yes, the code has explicit provisions for equal pay for men and women. It prohibits discrimination in recruitment and service conditions, everything. It's written into the law much more robustly now.
I love that.
Yeah.
But I have to mention my favorite detail from this section. It's small, But if you ever quit a job and had to chase HR for your final check,
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this.
the code says your full and final settlement must be paid within 2 working days.
2 working days.
That is wild. I think I waited 45 days once, calling them every week. 2
Yeah.
days is just incredibly fast.
It puts a ton of pressure on payroll departments, but for the employee, it removes that awful financial limbo between jobs.
Okay, so that's the money. But the way we work has changed so much. It's not just 9 to 5 office jobs. We've got delivery partners, freelancers.
The gig economy.
Right. And under the old laws, they basically didn't exist.
Which brings us to the second pillar, the Code on Social Security, 2020. And honestly, this is the most 21st century update in the whole bunch.
Because it finally recognizes the gig economy.
It formally integrates it into labor law. Gig workers were in this gray area, right? Not employees, not contractors. They were partners with 0 benefits.
So what changes?
The new code extends Social Security coverage to gig workers and platform workers. The law actually defines these categories now.
But Social Security costs money. If a delivery rider isn't an employee, who's paying?
That's the clever and kind of controversial part. The code proposes that the aggregators...
The platforms, the big apps.
Right. The ride-sharing apps, the food delivery companies, they may have to contribute between 1% and 2% of their annual turnover to a Social Security fund for these workers.
Wait, 1 to 2% of turnover?
Turnover.
Not profit.
Not profit. Turnover.
For a low-margin business like food delivery, 1% of turnover is a massive chunk of change.
It is huge. And we can probably expect that cost to trickle down to us, the consumers, in higher fees. But it ensures that the people powering those platforms have a safety net.
And I saw something about portability in there, too.
Yes, to make this work, everything is linked to a universal account number through Aadhaar, so your benefits travel with you.
So if I switch from one app to another or move to a different state, I don't lose my safety net.
Exactly. It's a huge deal. But speaking of moving jobs, there's another group that gets a massive win here: fixed-term employees.
People on contracts.
Yes. This is one of the biggest changes for contract staff. Previously, to get gratuity, that lump sum you get when you leave a job, you had to work for 5 continuous years.
5 years. I mean, that's a lifetime in some industries now.
It is. The new code reduces that eligibility from 5 years to just 1 year for fixed-term employees.
That's a game changer. So if I'm hired for an 18-month project, I actually get gratuity now.
You do. It incentivizes that kind of work without stripping you of the long-term benefits.
Okay, so we've got security for new kinds of workers. But what about the old-fashioned kind of security, when things go wrong? Let's talk about the Industrial Relations Code 2020.
This is the one that deals with hiring and, well, firing.
And it was the most debated one, right?
For good reason. It gets to the heart of business flexibility.
And there's a number here that jumped out at me, 300.
Yes. The threshold. Previously, if your company had 100 or more employees, you needed government permission to do any layoffs or closures.
And government permission usually meant no.
Or at least wait 2 years while we think about it. It was a bureaucratic deadlock. And what happened was companies just stayed small.
The Peter Pan syndrome.
Exactly. They'd never grow past 99 employees to avoid the regulation. The new code raises that threshold to 300.
So a factory with 250 people can now scale down based on market conditions without asking for a permission slip.
Correct. You still have to pay severance and follow all the rules, but that government hurdle is gone. The logic is to encourage medium-sized businesses to grow without fear.
I can see why businesses love that. But I can also see why workers might be nervous. It sounds a little bit like hire and fire.
It does offer more flexibility to the employer, yes. But, and this is the balance, the code also introduces a reskilling fund.
I thought this was such a cool idea. It's not just goodbye and good luck.
No. If a worker is retrenched, the employer has to contribute to this fund. The worker then gets an amount equal to 15 days of their last drawn wages.
Specifically for reskilling.
Specifically for reskilling.
Now, okay, 15 days of wages isn't going to buy you a new PhD.
It isn't. But it's the first time the law has explicitly linked firing with retraining. It's an acknowledgement that if your job disappears, you need help to pivot.
It's a shift in thinking. And I guess to go with that, the dispute process is faster now. 2-member tribunals.
Right. The goal is to stop labor disputes from dragging on for a decade in the courts. Speed seems to be a theme here.
It really does. Okay, let's move to the physical environment. The Occupational Safety, Health, and Working Conditions Code, the OSH Code.
This one consolidates 13 different laws, like the old Factories Act. It covers the actual physical and mental environment of your job.
And there's a perk in here I found really surprising. The government is mandating health checkups.
Yes. Employers have to provide free annual health checkups for all workers over the age of 40.
That's fantastic. Makes preventative care a workplace norm.
It really does. And speaking of norms, the OSH code also tackles the issue of women working night shifts.
Which has always been a tricky area.
Right.
Safety versus opportunity.
It has. Historically, the laws just banned women from working at night, supposedly to protect them. This code flips that.
So it's allowed now.
It is, but with conditions.
But-
First, it requires the woman's consent.
So they can't be forced.
Never. And the employer must provide mandatory safety measures. We're talking transport, security, proper lighting, the works.
So it breaks down that old excuse. Oh, we can't hire women for this role because the plant runs 247.
Exactly. It opens up opportunities. The code also standardizes working hours, capping them at 8 per day, 48 per week. And get this. Overtime must be paid at twice the regular rate.
Twice the rate.
Twice. And it can only be done with the worker's consent.
That puts a real price on burning out your team. Now, there's a phrase in here you pointed out in the notes, inspector cum facilitator.
Right.
It sounds a bit bureaucratic, but you think it signals a real mindset shift.
I think it's a very intentional change in language. Historically, a labor inspector was seen as a kind of policeman, someone coming to find faults, maybe get a bribe.
Yeah, punish you.
Right. By changing the title to inspector cum facilitator, the government is signaling that their role is now guidance and compliance support first, helping you follow the rules.
That sounds good in theory.
In theory, yes. But, and this is a very big but, don't mistake this for leniency. While the approach is meant to be softer, the penalties for non-compliance have skyrocketed.
Give me an example.
Okay, take something like failing to certify your standing orders, your company rule book. The fine used to be what, 5,000 rupees?
A slap on the wrist.
Now it has jumped to 200,000 rupees.
Whoa, from 5,000 to 200,000.
Exactly. So the message is, we will help you comply, but if you ignore the law, it is going to cost you dearly.
So we have these 4 massive codes. They officially kicked in, November 21, 2025. Today is February 7, 2026. Where do we actually stand right now?
We are squarely in the messy middle.
I figured.
The laws are active, they're the law of the land. But India is a federal structure, and labor is on the concurrent list.
Which means both the center and the states have to make their own rules.
Exactly. And the detailed rules, the really fine print, are a mix of draft and final across the country. Some states are ready, some are still figuring it out.
So it's chaotic. Overlapping systems.
It's a headache for compliance officers, for sure. But for you, the listener, if you're a manager or a business owner, you can't just wait for the dust to settle.
You have to act now. So what's the checklist? What do I need to do today?
First, look at your compensation structures. Check that 50% rule. If your team's basic pay is less than half their total gross, you are non-compliant right now.
Okay, check the pay structure. What's next?
Appointment letters. The code says all workers need a formal appointment letter. Even casual or temporary ones. If you have people working on a handshake deal, you need to get it in writing.
And I'm guessing there's a big digital shift happening too.
Yes, that's the ease of doing business part. The goal is a single return online filing system. So prepare your internal systems for that.
It really is a double-edged sword, isn't it?
How so?
On one hand, you have way better protection for workers' gig coverage, health checks. On the other, businesses get the single license, easier filing, and that higher threshold for retrenchment.
It's a compromise. All major reforms are. But it's about India creating a future-ready workforce. We couldn't compete in the market of the late 2020s with laws from the 1940s.
It's cleaning up that messy room so we can actually use it.
Exactly. The renovation is painful, but the house will be much more livable when it's done.
Okay, before we sign off, what's the one thing you want the listener to walk away thinking about?
I want you to go back to that inspector cum facilitator model. It sounds great, right? Guidance over punishment. But combine that with the 200,000 rupee fine.
Okay.
My question is this. In a system designed to be guidance-based but carrying such heavy financial threats, are we actually going to see more compliance? Or will the fear of that massive fine just drive businesses to hide their mistakes even deeper instead of asking for help to fix them?
That is a fascinating tension. Does high risk lead to better behavior or just more secrecy? Something to mull over.
Indeed.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. Hopefully the world of labor codes feels a little less like a dusty room now.
See you on the next deep dive.
Bye for now.